Can you control this, please?
Running a pub can be pretty dangerous. Just how dangerous you'll see tonight as the Cook Report goes into business to trap the protection money racketeers.
Fine. Okay.
Licensees are paying £400 or £500, so there's no trouble.
Someone pulls a revolver out on me, sticks it in my stomach.
There are very few people who will make a stand against them.
What happened to the King's Arms is unfortunately all too typical of what's happened to scores of pubs in this area alone when targeted by criminals. When the landlord refused to pay protection money, the place was firebombed. On the other hand, if he had paid protection money, that might well have involved inviting in the drugs dealers. So either way, the landlord was on a loser.
We live in hell, to be quite honest, yeah. We live in hell. You don't know if you're going to wake up to a pub or a cinder. It's a frightening situation to be in.
Peter Charleston has been running into racketeers for years, an experience shared with many of his colleagues in Britain's 65,000 pubs.
Within a 5-minute car drive, I can show you quite a number of pubs that are now boarded up. The landlords have been forced to leave because of threats of violence, if not to himself, his children or his wife. They've been frightened to death. They've had to leave their businesses, their homes, their livelihoods, and they've gone.
I'm trying to go up to Land's End, it's the same. You get a gang of men together and they can control things. Gaffer, he'd say, like, go to such a place and cause a bit of a rumpus. So we used to do that. If people was there that got involved, then tools was used. Knives, machetes. Sometimes they're going to be pulled out.
Pub Watch had two aims.
Racketeering is spreading rapidly, with police nationwide targeting gangs who've taken over pubs. A Northumbrian task force prepares to arrest members of a local protection gang.
Earlier this year, this area, that's Wallsend, and Gateshead East in particular, were targeted by known criminals for means of protection and for drug dealing. We're aware that people we're dealing with have got convictions for violence. They have used violence in the past. They do carry weapons. And those weapons, as you're well aware, can be guns, knives. We've obviously got to bear that in mind. Speed is of the essence, as you know, in any raid of this type.
1 a.m. and the task force faces its first problem. The still crowded pub is so well fortified, it'll take them almost 10 minutes just to break in.
The size of the problem is massive. It's difficult to quantify it because there's so much fear out there as a result of the intimidation. But we know from our contacts in pubs and clubs that this problem is massive and it's growing.
So we decided to go into the pub trade ourselves to bring you a picture of 2 weeks in the life of one of the country's most difficult pubs. The staff of life in Salford has been a constant target for villains who've driven out 5 landlords in the past year. Paul Beardsall has painful memories of his time at the pub. He lasted only 5 weeks. The trouble started as soon as he opened the doors.
The problems which arose within the first couple of days, you know, these lads were coming in, serving themselves, refusing to pay, and basically just wanted to run the pub. I tried to stand up to them, but as it happened, you know, I came unstuck with it all.
The staff of Life has had 5 licensees in the past year. The first licensee, who had been with us for 6 to 7 years, was regularly intimidated, both himself and his family. He had been beaten up. In the end, he pulled out after 6 years or so. We then had a relief manager who was in there for a very short period of time. He was very frightened and left after a couple of months. We then had an incident with the next manager where there was a break-in. The manager was caught. He was forced to open the safe. £1,800 was stolen, and he was then tied up and beaten with a crowbar.
Then he hit me over the back of the head with a crowbar and then just absolutely kicked shit out of me. I came back up here, they came back up here and shut the door and left me in there. It took me 3 hours to get round here to the phone, which I pulled off with my teeth, and ended up here just shaking and raging.
The boards come off as the cook report moves in, but we won't be putting our names above the door, and for once the villains will be welcome. The previous landlord had lasted only 4 days.
Punches were thrown, bottles, we were bombarded, the bar staff were bombarded with tins, bottles, chairs, tables, the windows were smashed. They run out onto the car park, smashing cars up, and then totally throwing things through the windows from outside. They actually wrecked the pub.
The staff's downfall is all too typical of many pubs throughout the country. It was once a popular place with the locals, until gangs of criminals moved in, demanding protection money.
It wasn't me running the pub, they were trying to run the pub. It was very, very, very difficult to keep on top of it. It made me physically and mentally sick in such a way that after 31 years in the job, I thought it was time to get out.
We have a problem with certainly some of our clubs and of late some of our pubs, where the licensees are being visited by known villains who are extorting money out of them. It becomes sort of like an insidious cancer. It starts to grow. It carries on a tide of fear.
It's not just a problem for the landlords, it's a problem for the breweries as well.
Recruitment is one of the most difficult problems in this area of Manchester. And you have to be honest with applicants and tell them the extent of the problems. But what licensee is going to want to take on that sort of challenge, in particular if he's got a family?
We installed 7 hidden cameras and microphones in the staff, and our own manager, a veteran of the licensed trade.
I've run some tough pubs in my time, one of them extremely tough. But this is certainly going to take top position on rough pubs. Yes, I feel it's going to be a dangerous situation.
As we prepared for the big opening, neighbouring landlords warned us of what to expect. The Langworthy is now closed down and boarded up. Chris Flannery was intimidated and firebombed out of business.
I came downstairs about 7:30 in the evening. There's 2 guys at the bar messing around with the pumps, and one of the bar staff asked me to intervene, which I did. As I'm talking to the first shop in front, the second one pulls a revolver out on me, sticks it in my stomach, and basically tells me that they don't give him what he wants. That's the end of it, which was £100 a week plus free beer.
And it seems that in our new line of work, it's not just our profits or our property that'll be in danger.
About 6 death threats I got altogether, which was enough for me. I thought the job's not worth it. Out we go.
How are those death threats delivered?
Through the window, actually. I'm the good old way, the bricks with the message tied to it. Pool balls, bricks. I had a message written over my name over the pub. Get out, I'll be shot.
Last week, relief landlady Gail Tyndall became yet another victim when she came face to face with a gang of armed men.
The 5 just come running through that particular door there, just said everybody on the floor, and just directed me to where they wanted me to go to give them the money, which obviously I did with the gun to my head. That is exactly what happened. They took all the money, ripped the telephone wires out, and locked us down in the cellar. I mean, there's pubs around here literally getting petrol bombed, burnt down. Licensees are paying £400-500, so there's no trouble in the pub, and the pub's still standing, and it's not getting petrol bombed and all this, that and the other. That's the price you've got to pay.
Everything's going to plan at our pub, but then again, previous opening nights have had a habit of going wrong.
One of the customers in the pub fetched this in. He said, "You'll need this to protect yourself." Now, that is an illegal weapon, but when he showed me that and then run off because the pub was shut, he was frightened to death.
Our big opening began with a bang. We'd see more fireworks later, but of a rather different kind. It would turn out to be a great start to the evening, with a packed house to greet the new landlord. It was only when we'd called time that, as expected, things started to go wrong. Our hidden cameras catch two men starting a planned fight in the top left-hand corner of the picture. Customers run for the door as the fracas spills into the lower lounge, covered by a black and white camera.
Towards the end of the evening, there was some basically mindless violence. And I've run some pubs in my time, related problems like drugs and violence. But this was obviously a show of violence for my benefit. It was vicious and totally mindless.
Stop it, hang on!
A closer look shows Paul Howarth knocking a woman aside as his victim runs for cover behind the bar. Howarth has convictions for attacking police and criminal damage. An innocent customer attempts to calm things down.
Just control it, please.
He went for cover behind the bar. The chap tried to pull him back, which ripped his shirt off. And then, obviously, he got cornered in the back. The lad went down. He kicked him in the head at least 3 to 4 times. I went to stop it, where another lad came in, saying, I'll sort it. I thought he was going to stop the fight. But as he went round, he actually stamped on the kid's head.
Just pack it in, will you?
Rob and Ken restore order.
Rob, see if he's all right.
We just experienced stage 1 of what's recognised as a classic way of setting up a protection racket.
All right.
8 or 9 of us go to public house, cause a ruckus. You get barred, but you go in again the next day and smash it up again. And then, like, a certain person will go in and make a deal with the landlord that all the trouble will be stopped for so much a week. And then it was up to the landlord then. If he said no, it was burnt.
That certain person in our case was Mike Davidson. We caught him employed illegally as an unregistered bouncer at a local club. Hours later, he turned up at our pub on more illegal business. He has convictions for theft and violence and made it very plain to our landlord how muscle gets him what he wants.
What happens down here now is down to me, and I've got a lot of force to show if anyone comes in causing any problems. You know what I mean? Not just around Salford,
Davidson is joined by 2 gang members. On the left is Paul Howarth, involved in starting that opening night fight.
Things will be sweet. You never get no mad. You won't get that mad anyway. Not as long as I'm coming here anyway. But down Salford, it's a different it's like it's getting that mad anyway. If you know like rights and me and he's like the safest houses.
Oh, they're definitely, the gloves are off and they're turning up the heat. I've had this meeting now, we're now getting down to the nitty gritty where I'm told that I cannot bring outside security in. I could only use them.
Single gangs can regularly run up to 30 pubs within their own patch. They initially demand low payments of between £50 and £100 a week. Low enough, in fact, to make it cheaper than getting in a team of real doormen to keep the racketeers out.
I was approached, we run the pub, you give us so much. I said, you what? They said, we want £50 a week. And I basically said, well, sorry lads, you're not getting it.
We've now been open exactly a week, and with the locals driven out, business is bad for us, but booming for the gang. So at home is the gang in what they now regard as their new headquarters, that one of them openly lights up a joint.
They sit around the corner and they openly use drugs. They bring their own drink in, and they intimidate people to an extent whereby they're scared to come in.
Salford isn't unique. Protection rackets flourish throughout the country.
These people like a soft target. If the landlords do not try to make a stand and stand up to them, really their life can be taken over. They will move in, they will move their associates in, and the next thing you know, the landlords haven't got any sort of control whatsoever of their premises.
The Tyneside Task Force finally finds a way in at the new anchor in Wallsend. The landlord had lost control of this pub, a local gang running it first for protection money and then for their drug deals and other criminal activities. It's the slippery slope that beckons many a pub, including ours. Occasionally, both sides pay the price of protection. Viv Graham, an infamous Tyneside hardman, paid the ultimate price. He was gunned down by hitmen as he left the New Anchor pub, the one you've just seen, being raided by the police. And Graham, who charged up to £5,000 to clean up a pub, will long be remembered for the persuasive way he did business.
Viv, they would offer him maybe say whatever his price was, would be, I mean, it was a busy pub, it would be a higher price than a pub that wasn't busy. But I mean, he would say, right, I'll clean your pub up for such and such, and if they agreed to the price, he would go in and clean it up throughout, I mean, whoever's been terrorising the place, have a word with them, just stay away from the pub, I'm looking after it now. And if they didn't stay away, well, he would go and maybe would a harsher warning, wouldn't it, or whatever.
And if he thought somebody needed a slap?
He would slap them.
And this was Graham's idea of a slap. Graham carried out the beating in a bid to gain control of another licensed premises in the northeast. It cost him a 3-year stretch behind bars. Back at the Staff of Life, and it's back to business. Mike Davidson has called in to tell us how much we're going to have to pay for his protection.
Just keep it sweet.
Okay.
Not selling that. You won't get no f***ing. You just pay it monthly. Pay it monthly. Instead of f***ing weekly. Alright, coming in a place too often.
He certainly doesn't mince his words at all. He lets me know how I stand. If I play ball, the words they use is sweet, you'll get no mither. If I don't, I can imagine I'm going to have a lot of trouble.
And what do you take him to mean by mither?
I think mither, personal injury, definitely damage to the pub itself, stock, windows, everything else, but certainly it would be followed up by personal injury as a last resort as well. And they're quite capable of doing this. I've seen it on the first night.
So too is Anne Hartley. She made the mistake of crossing Davidson's gang. This is how they left her, punched and kicked, her face scarred with a broken bottle. A beating we caught them bragging about back in our pub.
Lisa said she's got stitches right across her.
Mike Davidson is discussing Anne's injuries with Darren Howarth, the man who caused them. He has convictions for attacking police officers and burglary.
Just banged her twice in a kite, that's all I did.
The way he held my head down, he had holding my head firm like that, held me down as if thinking about what to do with me, because I do remember thinking I wasn't going to get hit because he had me there for a while. And then that's when I felt this thud. So somebody else had come up. It wasn't him, because the lad actually had holding my head with both his hands. Somebody else had come up and hit me underneath like that with what, like I say, I believe to be a bottle.
Was that a border coming up the way she...
I've been potted in the north years.
I had that place boxed off.
What sort of people are these?
They're animals. They're animals.
Davidson's anxious to sort out our protection payments and to deliver a final warning of what will happen if we don't make them.
Just going to wreck you gaff, aren't you? You know what I mean? Oh, well, that's it. I can stop your gaff getting wrecked. What do you want to do? Do you want to pay me?
Well, I've only got 50 quid now anyway. Right. I'll arrange something some other time. Probably Friday.
I'll tell you what, pay me that now, right? Pay me the other in 2 weeks. It's not next Wednesday, Wednesday after. Yeah.
Right. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I had a discussion with him only last night, and if I put to him that I didn't need to pay him, and straight away he came back with, well, if you don't pay me, then the place is going to be basically done. It'll be trashed. He said that then I cannot control my gang, basically.
You took that as a real threat?
It's a definite threat. It's, and I'm pretty certain it would happen as well. He uses terms like they want to kick off, but I can control them.
Does that meet your definition of a protection racket?
To me, it is blatant protection racket.
This self-styled hard man now believes he has what he's always wanted, the staff of life in the palm of his hand. The first payment is shown off to the rest of the gang. For the publican, this is the point of no return.
You're under serious pressure 24 hours a day, and these people like to terrorise you and victimise your wife, your children, and you can't even leave your car outside on the car park because that will be torched. I mean, there are lots of ways that they will try to get at you. You know, we know which school your children go to, we know where your wife goes shopping, we know where you go drinking when you leave the premises. And they know every move that you make.
2 days later, the 6'4" racketeer returned for the rest of his money.
What do you think every week, like?
Right after.
Mr. Davidson, Roger Cook, Central Television. That's protection money there that you just counted out, isn't it?
I'm a doorman.
No, that's protection money. You threatened this place. You threatened this place. He doesn't have doorman. You threatened this place would be smashed to pieces if... Yes, you did. And there's a picture of you doing it before. That's you taking the money before. You threatened this place would be smashed to pieces.
I work all over the show.
You have actually threatened this place would be smashed to pieces. You've boasted. You've boasted of glassing up other landladies.
All this shit, Tomo.
You've absolutely been caught bang to rights.
What we implore people to do is right at the very beginning, if you are approached and people are demanding money from you for little or no service, report it to the police, because it will go worse and worse and worse until such time as you lose your actual business.
You've been demanding protection money. You've been demanding protection money. You have been boasting of glassing up landladies. You take £120 a week up the road. And for once, Davidson was almost lost for words.
Hey, Cookie, the bollocks at me.
Pardon?
What a bollocks.
After just 12 eventful days, the boarding goes back up at the Staff of Life. This time it isn't the landlord who's been put out of business, it's thugs like this who scarred landlady Anne Hartley, and racketeers like Mike Davidson. Our evidence is on its way to the police.